Hey, welcome back to the studio. It's Rich. Today I'm going to be breaking down the sketching process. It's about 5 or 6 steps. Step one is the rough drawing. If you are a beginner, brand new to drawing, or want to improve, and you find yourself stuck at the rough stage and getting past that, I'm going to walk you through the whole process, right? Step one is obviously roughing in the anatomy. You got the pose in mind, so you're breaking down the body into its shapes, muscle groups, whatever your proficiency level is. You might be doing just cylinders, blocks, and cubes, or you could be getting it a little bit more detailed. I've been getting some requests for this. People are getting stuck at this stage one, getting into the fully rendered clothed stage. So they're working on their anatomy and posing, but have trouble getting past that. So I'm going to help you with that. This is obviously step one. You do what you do to break down the anatomy. My shapes tend to be a little bit more detailed, or more accurate, I guess. And my poses, or sorry, my figures are always more muscular. So step two is going to be drawing the face, or adding the facial features. If you have trouble getting to this part, just start by marking down your guidelines. Splitting the head in half, and knowing these proportions is key, and then just doing it is the next part. Don't be afraid to do it. Just jump into it. Maybe you are afraid of it and messing up this part, but don't be afraid to mess up this part. You're going to mess it up. You're going to mess it up plenty of times. I've done millions of bad face drawings. Just keep drawing more and more faces, and you will get better and more confident at it. Draw different types of faces too. But for your sketching process, start with the rough shapes, then put down your guidelines, erase them as you do the facial features just to clean it up. You are constantly cleaning and drawing as you go, so have an eraser handy. I use a variety of erasers depending on the task at hand. I have a large block eraser, but for detailed erasing, I will use the smaller eraser tip on my pencil. Now, I use a Pentel Sharp, and the erasers on there are very small, very fine, very accurate. I highly recommend the Pentel Sharp. It doesn't really matter what kind of eraser you use. Whatever eraser you have is the right eraser. Know your tools, get comfortable with your tools. Those are the tools that you use. Step four is adding clothing. What you're going to want to do is use a big block eraser like this one I have, and erase all the lines that you drew already. All that rough drawing, erase it. Not completely, you still want to slightly see the lines. If you can, totally erase the lines, but you probably can't if you're watching this video. I erase them just enough so I don't need, they're there for a guide. They're not there for the final drawing. Erase them, move on. You're going to add clothing over that figure. So it's almost like an X-ray drawing. You can see the figure under the clothing. So the clothing is going to be, adding some size to your figure. So because I know most of my viewers like comic book art and anime and manga, I'm drawing a fantasy style character, maybe a Final Fantasy character or fairy tale, but I have a slightly more comic book style. Anyway, so he has like these, the scarf that you might typically see in like a Battle Chasers comic, shoulder pads, and his long sleeve shirt's kind of rolled up, so like, 3/4 in the middle of the forearm there. I gave him gloves. This is all just to show you guys as an example how to add clothing to your figure. Remember, it's not skin-tight suits, and you're going to want to know how wrinkles and folds work in clothing and laying on a human body like this. All you really need to know is gravity and the structure of clothing. It all kind of drapes down from the highest point that it's hanging on. So if you think of putting a shirt on a uh, on a hanger, how it holds up. It's tightest, up there at the top, and then kind of drapes down. You're going to have, some draping points and wrinkles. The legs in particular, where the knees are, that's where most wrinkles are going to be, where the body bends. So the knees and elbows. And a little bit there, up there at the armpit, where the shoulders are, you're going to have some more wrinkles and folds, but that's mostly because of the cut of the clothing. Now this also kind of blends into step 5, which is detailed rendering. I would generally do the folds and detailed rendering all at once, but for you guys who want to break it down step by step, the next step is going to be the detailed rendering, which is hatching. Hatching can be more of a shading technique, but texture. You could be showing the texture of material. That would be part of rendering. Or, some design aspects on the clothing. That would be part of the details. So you kind of want to work from the most general shapes and the most general concepts, to the most smallest and specific details. So here we go. Now we're onto the shading and rendering. I'm doing some solid blacks up there. And when you're doing the shading, you want to know where your light source is coming from, and you want to be consistent. So I have it coming from the top left. And it tends to be my general kind of default light source. It's from the top left. Yeah, definitely be consistent. If you're inconsistent, it can be confusing to other people looking at your work. Exactly where the lighting's coming from, or how big certain body parts are if it's inconsistent. A lot of people can tell when there's something wrong with an art piece, even though they can't tell you exactly why there's something wrong. They'll know it. They can identify it because people use their eyes. They look around. They know what things look like instinctively, but they couldn't describe it. So, and generally I will do this solid dark in the darkest spot, and then hatched out or cross hatched. Definitely something for you to work on and master. You definitely want to master cross hatching. It can not only tell light, but texture. Here I am with the arrow. This arrow is showing the light source. Now you don't have to draw this out on your drawings, the whole arrow thing, but for you guys I wanted to draw this out. So I have shading under the scarf, where the scarf would meet the chest, and just making that line a little thicker. Shows form, and it shows volume. It makes things look more three-dimensional. Under the cuff, where the shirt is rolled up, that's going to be a heavier, darker shadow, because maybe not in real life, depending on the whole lighting thing, how dramatic you want it to be, there might be less shadow. But for this, I wanted there to be some strong shadows. And the bigger the shadow is, the more volume you can tell, how big the shirt is on his arm, And that's something you'll want to pay attention to. Like I said, a lot of folds, a lot of wrinkles around the knee. And depending on how much fighting or combat this character sees, you might want to add some rips or tears in the pants, some scuffed knees, maybe give him knee pads. All kinds of cool character design stuff you can do. And hey, if you're still here and you're enjoying this content and this is for you, go ahead and click that like button. Subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. I really appreciate it. Still a small channel, and this video is for one of my subscribers who requested this. And that subscriber is Mateo Russell. I hope I pronounced that right. Yeah, this video is for you. So this video is almost over. This is the last step. If listen, this is sped up 2 times. So if you want to see it real time, just go down to the settings of this video and click half speed. And then it should be in real speed. This sketch really didn't take me too long. Don't feel bad if this takes you longer than it's taking me. And here's the final sketch right here. Thank you so much.